Okay, hello everyone back to the Is It Blue podcast. Finally, with the one and only Alex Dawson. Alex Dawson is one of the most known underwater photography, based in Sweden. Um, mainly he loves to shoot wide angle, and we'll get to know why. Um, yeah, that's it. Alex, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Alex Dawson. Like Yod said, I'm from Sweden and I've been shooting mostly wide angle through my whole life. I've been diving for I've been shooting underwater for almost 30 years now. So
Okay, that's impressive.
diving for 30 years actually. Yeah, diving and shooting.
Okay, that's good. And if you won actually multiple of awards, the UPY award. You've
Yes.
been featured on huge social platforms such as Scuba Magazine and Paddy.
Hmm.
So you've been around for a while. Okay, so
Yes. Yes.
let's start. So when did you get into scuba diving, and why?
Yeah, so I got into scuba diving in 1993. It was during something called, in Sweden, in Stockholm, there's something called Stockholm Water Festival, and they had this like, uh, it was like a discount tickets, so you could try different things, and scuba diving was one of these things that I have the possibility to try then. So I just felt like this is a great opportunity to try this, and I fell in love at the first time I put my head underwater. I mean, it was amazing. It was scary. I was scared the first 50 dives I did, but I still loved it. It was like a love and hate relationship. Like I was super
Okay.
scared of the darkness and the cold and bad visibility, but it also fascinated me so much. And this was in
See,
1993.
yeah,
Yeah,
in 1993. Okay,
yeah,
so before I was born, like 5 years ago. Five
yeah,
years before I was born.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you're
exactly.
diving. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of scuba divers, we have we like to keep going back to the water. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Why we cannot explain this? We get hooked to scuba diving, but once again, I cannot explain why. So can you tell me why did you get hooked to the scuba diving?
I was just super fascinated by the underwater world, and I don't know if I'm jumping questions now here, but the I was so fascinated by just breathing underwater, how interesting the underwater world. And I live in Sweden. There's no fish. There's no marine life at all. So it was just like the shapes and
Only cold
contours
water.
of, yeah, like I dived. I started diving basically in caves and mines and stuff like that, and under the ice, and I did a lot of, maybe in many other people's how they think is maybe a little bit of a hardcore diving, but that was the only option we had in Sweden. So this is what we started with, and it was so beautiful. And then I wanted to just, yeah, I couldn't not dive. We dived basically every weekend. Me and my best friend, we went diving Saturday and Sunday every weekend, and we did that for years, and kept getting more education, doing more courses, and of course I got involved in underwater photography quite shortly after I got certified also.
Okay, you was a photographer first or a scuba diver first?
I was a scuba diver first. So,
Okay.
and when I started with photography, it was underwater, and I rented my first underwater camera already in 1993. And I got one lucky shot, and at that time, of course, it was analog, so there was no digital cameras. And I had one lucky shot of my friend inside a cave, and it looked pretty cool. It was quite crisp and clear for, being underwater, and all the other 35 frames, because it was maximum 36 exposures per dive. For the people that don't know, that the film rolls were either 24 or 36 back in the days when it was filmed. So you had to like prioritize how you were gonna dispose the exposures. Like if you found something very interesting in the beginning of a dive, like am I gonna burn 36 or 30 pictures on this because I think I won't find anything more interesting later? Or am I gonna go like, I take 5 now and I save 30 for later, and then you don't see anything else for the rest of the dive, and you go like, oh, this is so annoying. So the film era
Yeah.
was very different, because you wanted to kind of finish every dive with a empty roll, because I was always so eager to develop it and see if there was any good pictures. So yeah, it
So,
was a
so, you- so you,
very, very different story back diving analog underwater, I can tell you.
you had to be like economic while taking the shots. You can't just point
Yeah,
out
that
and
too.
keep
That too.
taking photos.
Exactly. Every time you press the trigger, it costs you like a half a dollar or something like that. You know, you just
Yeah, so you have just like to imagine the scene in your head before just clicking the shutter. So
exactly. And also you were limited to 36 images per dive, which means if you make 4 dives in a weekend, that's 130 images or something like that in a weekend. Today, 130 images with a digital, if I'm shooting like the sardine run in South Africa or something like that, 130 images I've took the first minute. So it's a very different story.
yeah, so if you're taking the if you're looking for a tiger shark, you find him
Yeah.
on the 37th
Yeah,
picture.
exactly.
You won't be able to take it. So
No,
yeah,
and
so
this happened many times, so many times. So yeah, very
okay,
interesting
so
shooting analog.
so you started your diving in Sweden.
Yes. Yeah.
In Sweden, okay, let us speak about Sweden and the area around Sweden. Okay,
Yeah.
for us here in Jeddah in the Red Sea.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
today I just did my first side mount dive. I just came
Oh,
back.
cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So thank you. So the water temperature is 26 degrees Celsius. Okay, and we
Yes.
were freezing. We were freezing. We were freezing.
Yeah.
Like I was wearing a 3 mil full
Yeah.
wetsuit with a
Yeah.
thermal vest,
Yeah.
and we were still freezing. So we're not. I cannot imagine the
Yeah.
temperatures you guys dive in.
Yeah. So the temperatures, or I mean the waters in Sweden, we have the Baltic Sea. Stockholm is on the east coast, so it's connected to the Baltic Sea. The water there is green, like dark green. Usually, if you go to 20 meters or at least 30 meters, it will be pitch black in the middle of the day. There's no daylight
Okay.
coming out. It's night diving, and a lot of the good wrecks that we're diving for technical diving, they're between 30 and 80 meters. I mean, they are deeper, but I don't dive deeper than that in the Baltic Sea. And it's always
Okay.
like a night dive, but the visibility is just as clear as in the Red Sea when you get down to these depths if you're out far at sea. Like, so you have this like bad layer of when you start the dive and you descend, you go into pea soup, you don't see the hand in front of you, and you're following a line into darkness, and it gets darker and darker, and
Yeah.
if you're lucky, it clears up maybe at 10-15 meters a little bit. Then you might come into another cloud at a different depth where it's bad visibility, like milk, and then maybe at 50 meters you come out and clear again, and then you come down to the wreck and it's pitch black. And yeah, I start setting lights so that we can see what we're doing, and it's such a it's very special feeling.
Yeah, I can't imagine actually being in this cold of water.
Yeah, and the temperature
Actually,
the temperature is always 4 degrees at the bottom, always 4 degrees Celsius.
that's crazy.
So if you dive in the winter time, it will actually be as low as 1 plus or 2 plus in the surface. So you don't want to do deco
Okay.
dives in the winter time because it just gets too cold. So
Mm.
it's actually warmer at the bottom during the dive than on the last deco.
Oh yeah, I
section.
just want to ask you, is it like different
Yeah.
thermoclines? So at 10 to
Yeah,
15 it will be warmer, or the opposite?
Yeah, yes. So in the winter, it can be like I said, +1 only in the surface, like really close to freezing point. I mean, it can be ice even, but it will be
Okay.
the water will be 1 or 2 degrees, and it's really really cold. And then you get down to maybe 15-20 meters, then it actually gets warmer because you come into the bottom water, which is 4 degrees.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's nice and
Uh,
warm during the whole dive, or or not warm, but warmer. And then as you come up and to do your deco stops, you get into this like it feels
Gets
like
colder.
somebody's opening your dry suit because we dive in dry suits all the time. We wear
Yeah,
dry
definitely.
gloves. Many people wear dry hoods, so there's no water coming into your head even. I don't do that. I dive a wet hood, but a very, very thick one. And
Okay.
the parts here, which is exposed, where the mask doesn't cover and the hood doesn't cover, and the lips and the rest of the face here goes numb after like 15 minutes. You lose sensation. It gets so
You
cold
get
that
used
you
to
don't
it.
feel it. You get used to it, but also like biting the regulator or biting the loop of the rebreather gets difficult because you get so cold that you can't really feel your lips and stuff like that. Like
Mm,
after you come up after a dive like that, if you try to whistle or something, you can't because you can't shape your lips. There's like, yeah, you have no
total
sensation. You
numbness.
can't, yeah, total numbness. You can't control your muscle at all. Hands are usually super cold after a dive. Feet also, like any parts where the blood has harder to circulate to. Um,
Okay.
but we dive also. We use
Well,
electrical heat. We use electrical heating vests to keep us warm. We can put argon in the suit, which is like 2.7 times denser than air, which isolates much better. And we
okay.
use so much undergarments. Like I use usually 2 to 3 base layers, and then I use like the thickest, like think of a like jacket that they wear when they climb Mount Everest. Basically, a suit like that is what I'm wearing. Then I put the
Okay.
dry suit over. So this is, which also means that you have to have enormous amounts of lead to get down. Like I use almost 20 kilos with my side mount rig to be able to go down because I have so much undergarments on. But
Yeah, I can imagine.
with, with
I mean,
with
I'm
with
not.
the right equipment, yeah, with the right equipment and with electrical heating and all the best features, I can do close to 3 hour dives at the moment. But there are people that are doing 6 hour dives in these waters. I'm not there,
Yeah,
but
that's
close
really
to three
crazy to
hours
be honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Actually, one of the sites in my bucket list, I'm guessing it's either in Iceland or Norway, where you
Yeah.
can like dive between the two continents.
That's in Iceland. Yes, yes. That's
In
Silfra
Iceland,
in
yeah.
Iceland. Yes, yes, yeah.
So have you been
Yeah,
there
that's good.
before?
I have been there. I've done a kind of like a night dive there. It was like getting dark as we entered the water and came up in the darkness, and we had the northern lights in the sky above us as we
That's
came out of the water.
amazing.
It was really amazing, and the visibility is like over 100 meters. You see as far as you can, and we were alone in the. It was just me and the guide. It was really nice. I actually have one of those pictures on my Instagram from Silfra, and it's really nice.
Okay,
I've
nice.
only dived that
Oh,
site one
what
time.
is it called? What is the site
Silfra,
called? Silfra.
Silfra,
Okay.
and the lake I think is called Tingvellir. So it's a very nice place. It's
Nice.
if you go to Reykjavik, which is the capital of Iceland, and you ask for diving,
Yeah.
they're gonna take you there. That's like the number one spot that they take tourists. So
But the
it
combination
it's
of the
easy.
night dive with the northern lights, I
Yeah,
can't
yeah, that
imagine the
was
scenery. So.
yes, that was pretty spectacular. Yeah,
Okay, so
very
let's
nice.
get into underwater photography. So,
Yes,
a disclaimer, I'm not a technical underwater photographer. I'm just a scuba diver,
yeah,
interested to know more about underwater photography and about underwater photographers. So,
yeah.
first of all, may I ask, is it for you? You've been doing it for years. So,
Hmm.
when you started, did you have the plan like that you will make it as a career, or you were just doing it for fun?
I was doing it for fun in the beginning, of course. 93, I took my first picture. 1995, I took my first good images. I had the Motomarine CNC Motomarine 2 then, also analog camera, of course. Took a couple of nice images. That's when I kind of realized that this is really fun. I want to do it more, but definitely didn't think of it as a career. In 1998, I sold my Motomarine to one of my dive cent owners, and I bought my first SLR camera, like yeah, I don't know what you call it in English. yeah, like
DSLR
yeah,
camera.
yeah,
Yeah.
but analog SLR, so not the
Okay.
DSLR, analog
Also, still
SLR.
like limited shots.
Absolutely, 36 exposures. This was in '98, and I got my Nikon F90X, and I got a housing for it from Hugifoot, and got a 50 millimeter lens, which was kind of inconvenient because I couldn't afford many other lenses. So I started with a 50, which is not really ideal for underwater. You should either go macro or you should go super wide, I think, and this was like in between, so it wasn't a good choice. But I started shooting with that one in 98, 99, and in 99 I participated in the Swedish underwater photography championship, and I became rookie of the year. I think I got a third place and also rookie of the year announcement, and that's kind of when I decided I really want to put more effort into this. So I started competing more. I started like trying to develop my photography skills and stuff like that much more. But then in 2002 or something like that, digital started growing, or 2001 maybe, digital camera started growing, and I realized that that was the future. And I didn't like it at all because the quality of the digital cameras were really bad at that time. The dynamic range was terrible, colors were really off, and the images needed a lot of post-processing, which at that point I didn't understand, which is image editing, like retouching.
It was physical, right? So it wasn't like digital,
So,
the post-processing.
yeah. No. It was digital then, of course, because I started with image editing in 2001, digital on my analog camera pictures. So I scanned them with a slide scanner to get them digital into my computer, and then I could edit them in the computer. So I got into editing quite a lot, and then in 2003 or 2 I decided that I actually realized that if I'm gonna be good at this in the future, I have to become a really, really good retoucher. Like, it's all about doing good image editing. That's what it comes down to, because digital cameras are not so good. I mean, they were not so good. So I realized that it's all about how good you can make it in the computer to make it look like you see it underwater. Since the cameras cameras couldn't capture what I see. Yeah.
I mean, definitely, the eye is a special creation. So to reach the level of the quality of the eye, maybe one day, but I'm guessing never.
Yeah.
Okay,
no,
so
the eye is so advanced. So yeah. So that's how that started.
So I mean, you got really good at it because it was like a passion for you.
Yes, it was.
Now after a while. Yes, now after a while, it's your daily job. So do you feel like it's still your passion, or just your job? You're doing it and that's it. Have you lost passions? Moments where you felt you don't want to do this anymore, then you jump back up?
Goes up and down for sure. But to jump back to the story of the history of my photography, in 2002 or 2003, I started a school for professional image editing, or I was hoping to get into that, but that class was full, so I ended up in another class, which was like a parallel class to the image editing class, but we still had image editing too. And I was going to this school for a year, and after that I went out for my first like practice in a real studio, and that's where I got into image editing a lot, and this was in 2004. Nice. And that's when I bought my first digital camera, which was the Nikon D70 6 megapixel camera. It was pretty good. It was the first good digital camera that I felt. The first 3-4 years, the digital cameras were not so good. And then I worked in this studio as a professional photographer. So I got hired as a photographer eventually. And I worked there for 15 years to 2019, where I shot for
So outside of the water?
Yeah, outside the water. So I shot for clients like H&M, the clothing brand, and Sony, and many other commercials. Like, so I did that for 15 years. But as long and on the side, I was still shooting underwater, and I kept developing my underwater skills. In 2008 or 9, Nikon released the first full frame uh, DSLR, which was the Nikon D3. And that's when I also decided to start shooting the way I wanted to shoot, only in ambient light. So I stopped using strobes. I only shot with ambient light and pushed the ISO sometimes up to like 12,800 already in 2008, 2009. It was grainy, like it was so grainy. It were basically useless images, but I still liked it because it looked natural in a way. And the grain on the Nikon cameras has always been quite nice. It's always been very film-like. So it looks like, you know, if you shot a black and white film like Tri-X and you pushed it 2 steps or something at 1600, it had a very nice grain, and that was kind of the feeling that I got from the Nikon cameras too. So, and then 2009 and 10, I really started developing my photography quite a lot, because the cameras finally were starting to get to where I needed them to be. But always struggling that I needed
so you're waiting
camera.
for the cameras, yeah. You're waiting for the cameras to get into a certain level.
Exactly. It's a little bit like George Lucas and Star Wars. He couldn't produce the first movies because technology was not there, basically, but he had the idea for it.
Yeah.
It was a little bit the same for me in that way, I would say.
Okay. So I made an assumption at the start. I'm not sure if it's right, but based on what I know, any Alex Dawson that I know online, your favorite type of shooting is wide angle.
Yeah,
or I can say wide. You love Rex as well, caves and mines.
Yeah.
These are the fours that you focus on. So why did you choose shooting wide angle, and why did you got to see now? When you said at the beginning, I can relate. You said there's not a lot of fish in Sweden. So now I can relate. Maybe you chose wide to shoot like Rex and landscape photos, not marine life.
Yeah. So in 2008, I also got involved in technical diving, and I got starting to getting exposed to the better wrecks that we have in Sweden, which is from like 30 to 60 meters, the deeper ones, which are well more preserved. Visibility is better. That's when I also realized that I definitely want to do wide angle, because it's kind of meaningless to do macro on a wreck, I think. And like I said, no fish. And I participated in the World Championship of Underwater Photography in 2005. And after that, I sold my macro lens. So basically since 2005, December, I've only been shooting wide angle. And I'm super happy about that decision. And I've never looked back and missed macro. And the reason why I started with underwater photography, I don't remember if I told it in the beginning of this conversation, but I wanted to share the underwater world with everybody that didn't dive. So I'm not really when I'm thinking of pictures and ideas, I'm not really taking it for divers. I'm taking it to show the beauty. I see myself as a landscape photographer, but underwater, and I'm trying to share that vision and the beauty and the knowledge to people that don't dive. And my images, a lot of my following in Instagram, for example, is non-divers. Definitely non-divers, and that's maybe why I have a huge following, because a lot of my images, because they are so wide and they are kind of landscape oriented, they give a very good sense of feeling what it is to be underwater.
Maybe it's easy to understand.
It's much easier, because a macro image of a nudibranch or something, like, beautiful colors, but that's the end of story. Like, it doesn't tell anything. But when you show a landscape image, your imagination can start going, and like I always try to create the feeling of that the viewer feels like, oh, I wish I was there. I try to like create this like not envy, but like inspiration for people that look at my images and they feel like, I want to do that. That's really the goal of my imagery, and that's what I like. And that's when I feel, if I take an image that speaks to especially non-divers, and they get the feeling, oh, I also want to do diving, I want to see more of the underwater world, then I've succeeded.
Yeah, because seeing stuff underwater is like going to space. So people who have never been diving, so everything is new to them. And I can see your when you said like macro, maybe the wide angles show more of the story, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Shooting, whether
It
you were
tells a,
shooting wreck or
it tells a
caves.
bigger story. Yeah, it
Yeah,
tells a bigger
definitely.
story. Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
people can
the
start
macro may
using
be
their imagination.
more sided to beauty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to capture the beauty, and even wrecks I think are really beautiful.
Yeah, I was just asking, what is your favorite wreck? Your
I have many
favorite
favorite.
wreck you've
Yeah,
been to?
The SS Thistlegorm is definitely one of my favorite wrecks in the world. It can be a
And
super
Sharm.
bad dive, but it can also be a super good dive. Yeah, exactly, outside Sharm el Sheikh. And
Yeah, so I've
Zenobia,
seen this image, if you can see it.
yes, yes, that's from the Thistlegorm in 2019 with one of my best friends and dive buddies, Frederick, who's in the picture there. It was an assignment for a travel company, so we were producing
Okay.
images from them, and we got a really, really good content during this week for them.
So, so did you like directed the image with the lighting? For example, did you like tell your buddy go there and put the lights, or was
Yeah,
it was just like random taken?
we have a lot of experience together. We've been shooting together underwater since 2009. So, and he knows how I like things, and so we managed to, like, he's a very good listener. He understands how I'm thinking quite well, and I placed the lights. He took directions where he was gonna swim and everything, and then we took many of those images. I mean, I've got a lot of images from that dive. We started diving, I think, 5 o'clock in the morning already. So by the
Okay.
time or I think we got up at 5, maybe we jumped in the water 5:30. It was pitch black when we jumped in the water, and just as we came down to the wreck, the first twilight started coming, so we could start seeing the wreck a little bit contours. And then we were on rebreathers, so we were alone on the wreck for almost 70 minutes before we saw the first diver. So we had the whole Thistlegorm for ourselves for 70 minutes, and we
Which is
started
quite
with,
rare.
it's very rare. It's very rare. I've been on the Thistlegorm with 500 divers at the most. This was in 1997.
Ooh.
It was terrible. That at
How
that
did
point I
they
didn't
manage
like.
it?
Yeah, you put 25 liveaboards. Each liveaboard has 25 divers on board, and there you go.
You got like 1,000 diver on the wreck.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. I'm glad that they
Okay.
have it regulated now. Yeah.
Nice. So now I have questions for you as a photographer.
Yeah.
So let's say being an underwater photographer, you can't say like Sil. You have to be remote. You have to be traveling around.
Yes.
So yeah. So does it affect? I'm not sure if you have kids or you're married, but does it affect the how do you manage the being out for maybe a couple of months, 3, 4, and then coming back to it? How did you manage being and how does your family like cope with it?
Yeah, no, it's worked very well, and I'm traveling never like. I think the longest I've been away has probably been 3 weeks. I think I don't think I've gone
Okay.
on longer, and so I'm always like back and forth, and there's been periods where I've been home quite a lot, and I only started with this underwater photography full time basically when that image was taken, the one from Thistlegorm that we just looked at in 2019 in January. That was basically when it started. So 2019 I traveled a lot, maybe 20-25 weeks. In 2020 COVID came, so I guess I only traveled in January and February and March. I was in Jordan when the COVID outbreak was. And then the rest of 20 and 21 was no traveling, more or less. I went to Mexico, I think, twice, though, because they didn't have much COVID restrictions, and I did cave training and cave photography. And then basically 22 is the first travel year where I travel a lot again. And then 23 also has started with a lot of traveling. So, yeah.
So
I haven't done it so long, is my point, because before, when I worked in the studio, I was maybe traveling maybe 8-10 weeks per year, and now it's more like 25 to maybe even up to 30 weeks.
Okay, so choosing your dive buddy, it's very
Yeah.
important, especially when you're diving and taking photos in extreme places. I saw a video you uploaded, I think, on YouTube in a mine called
Yeah.
Montolia, if I'm not mistaken.
Montola from Finland. Yes. Yes.
Montera, yeah. So just
Montola.
by
Yeah.
watching the video, I was holding my breath. So how can you choose the how can you choose your dive buddy, and how can you trust him in these areas
Yeah.
where
Yeah. In
there's
this
no
environment.
chance for mistake, plus
No. No.
plus
Yeah.
holding the heavy gear.
Yeah. 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 No. I dive. I mean, in technical diving, you have more redundancy. Open water diving is in many ways so much more dangerous than technical diving if you're following to what you're taught, and you're not going over your own limitations, and you're sticking to the rules.
Plan your dive and
Uh,
dive
becau-
your plan.
Yeah, because we have redundancy. Like when we in the Montola video, we're all on rebreathers. We're all on the DPVs on scooters, and we were a team of it was Sarah and Magnus, which are my super close dive buddies from Sweden, and then there was Pertti, who was the key holder of the Montola mine, and then there was Patte, who's another photographer, and I think, oh it was the five of us, yeah. So extremely, the Finnish guys, they're super extremely good cave divers,
Okay.
and yeah, the funny thing about this dive is that it's not a planned video shoot. It's just me filming. I have the camera rig on a Suex Frame Zero, which I mount on my Suex scooter, and it balances the camera like a gimbal a little bit. And then we were
It's like
just
holding
diving,
a
and I was
stabilizer.
shooting. Yeah, a little bit like that. And we just did a, I don't know, it was maybe like close to a 2 hour dive, I think. And the maximum depth was around 60 meters. And we're following the lines according to protocol and everything. And we're just enjoying the dive. I mean, technical divers are very skilled, and it's usually not, and cave divers are very skilled, and everybody has more or less the same education. So it's not that difficult to mix teams in a way, because protocol is more or less the same. The only thing I think I requested was that Patte and Pertti was supposed to be in front of me, and then Sarah and Magnus was behind of me. So I, with the camera, was boxed in the middle, like, so I could just, they would look after me basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been in a couple of dives with underwater photographers. I think the most important characteristic is patience. You need to have a dive buddy where he can just wait and look at you for 15 minutes or more.
Yeah, I try to avoid
Yeah,
that
so-
because I need to keep my buddies around, and I need to keep them happy. So I really avoid making too long photo sessions at one place. Of course, if I am on a paid assignment where which doesn't usually happen in caves, unfortunately, but if I'm on a paid assignment in a cave, then I could easily tell my buddies, because they're there for one reason, to support me. But when we're out doing like this Montola dive, that's just a fun dive with friends, and I use those for training. So I don't want to interfere with my friends having a fun dive while but I'm still using it to do training, so I can develop techniques and test new equipment and so on, so we can get better. And they usually enjoy, because they really enjoy the footage afterwards and stuff like that. And with Sarah and Magnus, that I dive a lot, we sometimes do like pure photo dives, where we like dedicate a dive to do purely setting up lights and stuff like that, and we have a very clear idea before the dive, and those images usually turn out very good.
Yeah, I've
when
seen
we
one.
do
I've
that.
seen one. I'm trying to get it out. I've sent it to you yesterday. It looks amazing. The one with the plane and the lights coming out. It's like a jet.
It's from Jordan. It's from Aqaba.
Oh, it's Al Aqaba. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's in
it looked
Aqaba.
really nice.
Yeah.
The lights coming out looks
Yeah.
like like the airplane is on, you know.
I know, I know.
Yeah, this is it. I'll try to share it.
Yeah, it was shortly after the scuttling of the TriStar Lockheed in Aqaba.
Yeah, this is
This
it.
was,
It looks. I mean, it's smart, yani.
yeah.
Did you plan like to take this image before jumping into the water, or is it just
No,
on
no.
spot?
I think I got the inspiration while underwater. I don't remember who the dive buddy is on this image, but yeah, it was shot in I think
Oh, that's
August.
a lot.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I did.
Yeah, a lot of
If I did
tags, so I think it's hard to find.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But,
I actually have other questions, but I'm trying not to like pass the time we have, so
yeah,
I may
yeah,
like skip couple of questions,
yeah. Sure.
and maybe come back to them later if we have time. So let's
Yeah,
go into, for example, me. I'm planning to go into underwater photography. So I'm
yeah,
watching videos on YouTube, trying
yeah,
to learn. So the starting point, to be honest, is really overwhelming.
yes,
Trying to figure out which camera should you choose, and the housings,
yeah,
and the extensions and the ports. It's really
yeah,
overwhelming for a person
yeah.
like who's used to shoot with a GoPro,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you think is the best start point? You know?
The best starting point is you need a camera that shoots raw images, so you have raw data. That
Okay.
is super important. I would say start with a wide angle, not necessarily fisheye, but a super wide. So if you're on a full frame, it will be something from like 12 millimeter up to maybe like 20 millimeter for a full frame.
Okay.
And start shallow, so you have a lot of ambient light, and just shoot the same subject over and over and over again. Then second thing is that get really good at post processing. You need to learn how to control raw images.
Mm.
So it's all about the white balance, setting the contrast, setting white point, black point, so on, like understanding how imagery works. Then after that you can start, like, don't start training with like think that you're gonna come out with great dolphin shots or hammerhead shots,
Yeah.
or because moving subjects, if you're novice on the camera, like, it's meaningless. You need to shoot a coral boomy, just a coral head that sticks out, or just a stone. Like in the beginning in Sweden, when me and my friends had underwater photography club, we had photo competitions once a year, and I won a few times in those competitions. And the subjects were like, it would maybe be a stick laying diagonal, and then 3 stones up in the corner, and a little bit of surface in one, and it was just very clean, very minimalistic, and like, but that would still win over some other people that maybe had a fish head from a macro small fish that looked half dead or something. And so you don't necessarily, it's the ability to find, you don't have to have a hammerhead, or you don't have to have a school of dolphins or something to take a good image. It's really about, you can really shoot very simple things and try to work on angles and composition and stuff like that to make it really good.
Yeah. Probably even with the phone.
And shoot it over and over and over again, the same subject. That's what's really important.
Okay, so besides the overwhelming technical details,
Yeah.
it's quite expensive. I mean, getting into like underwater photography, you need to buy a camera with a housing with different ports.
Yeah.
So I mean, you cannot get one piece without the other. So you have like
No,
to get
no.
the full set.
Yeah.
So
I mean, one option is to get a compact camera. That is good. I don't
Okay.
know any brands at the moment, but every
Yeah.
brand has decent compact cameras, and you get a housing for that, and you get a wet lens. A lens that you can attach underwater, and preferably as wide as possible. Don't get a macro, don't get anything. You need to focus on one thing to start understanding underwater photography. And then just shoot. Spend hours in the Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever program you're using, and then repetitive. And like I said, you can shoot the same subject over and over again. And in different lighting, you can start, if you want to add external lights or something, see how that works. Maybe you put one light behind the coral head and see with a glow, and you feel maybe, oh, this is not good, but then you shoot the same subject at sunset instead, and then the glow really comes around and you get these darker blues in the water. Like, you don't need, like I said, a super cool subject. You just need to use your imagination, and you need to have visions. Like, look, of course, I look at thousands of images daily, and I take small things from each image, and then I combine it into my own recipe and make my own image.
Yeah.
In my underwater photography, I was really very much inspired by concerts, with my lighting and stuff like that, how they set scenes on during concerts and shows on stage. So I was very inspired by that in the beginning, but that evolves and changes all the time. Like, I get new ideas and new trends that I'm trying all the time.
Okay.
Because I'm constantly want to reinvent myself. I like doing things that haven't been done. I try to always do something that nobody has done. And like with the selfie lights that I started with in 2016, that is commonly used now in cave diving and
Yes.
mine diving. Like, more or less everybody uses. I started with in wrecks actually, which was way more complicated than a cave. There you have a ceiling, but there are things that's happening like this that I definitely see that I've been, or people have seen my image. They maybe don't know it's my images, but they've seen my images and they've definitely been inspired, and they have tried to continue developing those ideas, which is really nice to see actually.
Okay, do you have an advice for underwater photographers who are planning to go like full time? How can how can they monetize being a full time photographer? Should they like focus on competitions or working with companies or certain magazines? So is there like a path you can follow, or is it just or it should just be like a part-time thing?
It has to be a part-time thing in the beginning, obviously, because I did this for almost 25 years before I really started getting the good jobs or got acknowledgement, I would say. It's only the past 5 years really that I've been acknowledged as an underwater photographer, even though I've done it for almost 30 years. Even though I got a reward already as a Rookie of the Year in 1999, but that doesn't really count. And then I won some other competitions during early millennium also. I would say I shot for magazines a lot, dive magazines a lot during 99 to 2006, I would say 2007. Then I basically stopped working with dive magazines because they stopped paying, and I wasn't happy to contribute images. I was not. For me, it didn't mean to be published. That didn't mean anything like that. Another business is earning money on my. Sometimes I would do it just because it would maybe be a trade where you would get a trip for free images. But then, I had a little bit of a break in my diving between 2010 and 2015. I still dived, but I had kids and stuff like that. So, and I built a house. So it took a lot of my time. But then 2015, I started with the rebreather diving, and that's when my diving and photography started evolving like really, really big. And
especially being in wrecks and caves.
Yeah. And then 2019 and 20, I basically started full time with this.
Is there a shot that you haven't taken yet that you want to take? The dream shot, the dream shot you want to get. You're planning for it for years.
I have shots. I have one in Silfra in Iceland that I really want to take. I can't really reveal the idea because I don't want anybody else to go and try to.
I can be a model if you want to.
Yeah.
If you need a diver in the photo, I can be a model for it.
It's 2 degrees in the water there, and 2 degrees is way colder than 4 degrees. So I would recommend.
No, I'll be coming with my blanket, so don't worry. I'll be covering up.
Yeah. So it's
okay.
No, I have many ideas for sure, but either cameras are not good enough, I don't have enough lightning. I don't have enough big team. Budget is not
Yeah.
big enough for me to fulfill the dreams, because I have some very epic ideas saved for when the right client appears with the right budget. I have some ideas that I
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
can take out, but then I also need a $50,000 budget, or and there's very few clients that have that, but there are clients that have that. So just a little faith.
Oh, yeah, one of the questions I skipped, it's really important to ask for me.
Mhm.
Did you have a mentor, or you just went like by yourself?
I have not had a mentor, and I have not done photo classes or anything. I'm self-taught very much, but I've had inspiration. So I had an English commercial photographer that also did underwater photography. His name is Cavalry Julian or something like that. I don't really remember his name because it's like 20 years since but he was a big inspiration for me for rec photography. He had a very nice way of editing his images. I got very inspired by his editing. And then another British photographer called Sina Holloway, who's also a commercial photographer. She's shot a lot of celebrities underwater, and she's done some cool campaigns underwater, which many people probably have seen, but it's also like 15-20 years ago, so it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Those two people were huge inspirations to me. And who else has been huge inspiration? Swiss photographer in the beginning of my career, Franco Banfi, was a huge inspiration to me also. He's still around, shoots still. He does
Nice.
photo tours and stuff like that. He's very active photographer still. Very nice guy. And who else has been? There's probably been many names, but there's
Yeah.
those all my big inspiration, that happened like in the beginning of my career. I would say before 2005, I would say.
Do you do mentoring yourself? Do you mentor photographers, or do you have like
No.
classes, or are you planning to? If no.
No, I don't really do classes. I mean, I did, of course, in Saudi Arabia, I did the Kingdom Photography Award. I did that.
Yeah, this
of
is
course,
where we met
uh,
in the exhibition.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So I did that, of course. That was very fun. I only had 3 students, though, which was perfect. So they got a lot of attention, and they were probably most happy about that, because I could give them so much one-on-one attention. And they really developed during these days that we shot together. I don't usually do classes. I do simple workshops in collaboration with travel companies and stuff like that. So I have one in the Red Sea happening in about 1.5 months from now. I'm going to South Egypt, where I'm going to go on a liveaboard for 10 days with the Red Sea Explorers, and we're going to go to wrecks in the 100-meter range. So it's going to be deep diving.
Okay. So you need like specific candidates to join the trip.
Yes, it's only for full trimix rebreather divers. Yeah.
Okay, so if we got any full trimix rebreather divers, we can link the trip on the description, and
just
they can join you.
send me a DM, and you're more than welcome to join the trip. There's still like 5 spaces left on the trip, I think.
Okay, that's nice. So final question. You've been to Yumbo, as you said, recently.
Yeah.
You did couple of dives. So your favorite of the couple of dives you did, favorite site, and what did you think about it? Like generally your visit as a as an underwater photographer.
Yeah. I did 4 dives, and I've dived the Red Sea super much on the Egyptian side, and also in Aqaba, and also Sudan actually. But I really loved the Saudi side, and Seven Sisters was super cool, I think. The sea fans that you come down to at like 45 meters or something, they're amazing.
Yeah.
I can't remember which dive site it was, but it was really, and visibility was
Maybe
totally
the Iona wreck?
And the Iona wreck was also, it's definitely on the top 10 of my list of wrecks, and I've dived over 100.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Iona wreck was a really cool dive. We did 2 dives there, and my friend said that the visibility was not so good there now, and I thought it was super good. I would love to go back to the Iona wreck and I would like to do night dives on the Iona wreck and work with lights more, or not necessarily night dive, but more like sunset dive when the light gets lower, so you can work more with video lights and like set a cool lighting and do some fun stuff. No, Iona wreck is definitely gonna be dived more by me. I would like to be back with a
Well,
rebreather also, which gives me longer exposure
okay.
times at the bottom and stuff like that. So
Which is
hoping to
unfortunately
do
till
that.
now it's not allowed to use a rebreather in Saudi. Hopefully soon.
Okay, I thought maybe it was
Yeah.
allowed to do. It's
No,
not allowed?
actually, you don't have a rebreather already. No, no.
Okay.
So hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
hoping to be back with a rebreather.
Definitely. So,
Yeah.
any final announcements? Anything you'd like to say before, besides the Red Sea trip we've already said?
No, there's nothing special. There's really nothing special now. But yeah, if anyone has any questions or anything, please send me a DM on Instagram and present yourself and ask preferably a good question or something, and don't just say hi, because people that just say hi I usually just delete. Like, it needs to be some kind of communication more than a hi.
Yeah. Yeah, so they can
I get a
contact you
lot
at
of-
Alex
yeah.
_ Dawson _ photography on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Cool.
So thank you very much. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it, and see you in the next episode, inshallah. Bye.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Oh, sorry.